Okay. Like I said, excited to be here today to talk to you about the Empower Project. All right, let's get started. A little bit about the roadmap for today. First, I believe Tyler's going to tell you a little bit about Louisiana Clean Fuels. And then I'm going to go over sort of like workplace charging, why we're interested in it, why it's important. And then I'll go into some of the details of the Empower project, our goals, and our progress. And then Tyler will talk about why you might want to join Empower and what the next steps are to do that. And I'll hand it off to Tyler now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Tyler Herman with Louisiana Clean Fuels, and just a little bit of background about us, in case you're not familiar already. Louisiana Clean Fuels is a 501c3 nonprofit here in Louisiana, been active for over 20 years now, and we're part of the U.S. Department of Energy's Clean Cities and Communities Network. So that's a national network of around 80 coalitions like ours across the country that act as basically experts in the alternative fuel space. So we leverage information from the national laboratories and from our peer network to make sure that we're providing the most accurate information we can about alternative fuels for people who might use them. So that's fleets, government entities, and so on. And today we're doing a lot of work around electric vehicles, and part of that comes down to electric vehicle charging for workplaces. It's one of the primary places that people are parked for long periods of time. And I know Travis and Grace are going to talk a lot about that. We do a lot of our work through building partnerships with local and statewide organizations, both public and private sectors, so local governments, state government, as well as private fleets like Republic Services or UPS or any of our other stakeholders we work with, and help them leverage alternative and renewable fuels for their fleet operations to improve sustainability, reduce cost, reduce emissions, and really get the most out of their vehicles. We also work with idle reduction measures, fuel economy improvements, and of course, stuff like we're talking about today, which is the infrastructure that supports those vehicles. And then we do all that through providing information, technical assistance, the networking side of things, putting fleets into contact with other fleets who've done the work before, putting them in contact with people who can provide other information that might be a little bit more specialized than we might have access to directly. So we really leverage that networking partnership aspect of information sharing. So that's a high-level overview of Louisiana Clean Fuels. We cover basically all of Louisiana minus the greater New Orleans area, which is covered by our sister coalition, the Southeast Louisiana Clean Fuels Partnership. And if there's anybody who's from that region, we'll put you in contact with them, make sure that you're well served there as well. Thank you very much. I think that's back to you, Grace.
Thanks, Tyler. Louisiana Clean Fuels does so much great stuff. But I'm here to talk about why workplace charging. So why are we so interested in workplace charging? Why do we think it's important? There are a couple of main reasons for this. I like to look at the 30,000-foot view first in these kind of presentations. First, we know that EV adoption is on the rise, and it's expected to increase even further thanks to strong policies at the federal and state level and improving technology. Bloomberg actually estimates that EVs will make up 35% of all vehicles sold by 2040, which is pretty soon. And all those EV owners are going to need a place to charge, and they do need places to charge already. And we know that convenient and reliable access to charging is a prerequisite for owning an EV. And that really makes workplace charging necessary for this transition to EVs. Lots of people can charge at home, but lots more can't charge at home. And workplace charging is really crucial for those folks specifically. And next, there's also the trend of corporations around the world increasingly committing to carbon reduction, sustainability goals. Climate Impact Partners estimates that about 2/3 of global Fortune 500 companies have significant carbon commitment, meaning they need to reduce emissions. They're looking at cost-effective, easy ways to do that emissions reduction. And we really believe that workplace charging is a great contributor to that. As a company, you know that you're doing the right thing for the environment. And finally, there's also sort of like the lesser known value to the workplace. These are kind of surface level, large large scale things that are important for workplace charging, but it's also important for like your specific workplace. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide here. So why would your specific workplace be interested in workplace charging, aside from the larger trends that we're seeing, right? So first is demonstrating climate leadership. If you have customers, stakeholders that value climate leadership, you're going to want to have workplace charging. It's forward thinking. If you're an early adopter, your community is going to notice and pay attention to you. Next, it helps you attract and retain top talent for your employees. All the cool kids are driving EVs these days, as we know. People who care about technology, people who care about the future, those are the kinds of people that you want working for you, and they're driving EVs. So having EV charging at your workplace is a great way to attract them to work there. Next, you can also earn certification points for local and national certification, like environmental certification programs such as LEED, that can work towards your LEED certification. And finally, if you're transitioning from a hybrid or remote model to having an in-person office again, this can be a really great perk for your employees to come back to the office, is offering EV charging. We can go to the next slide. Great, yeah. So the next question here is, what's the holdup? If EV charging has all of these fantastic benefits, why don't more employers have it? Well, it boils down to employers have a ton of questions about, what kind of charging they'll need, what it's going to cost, like all of these different questions, how employees will use it, so much more. So that's really where Empower comes in, is to help answer these questions, because there's a lot of information out there and you can get lost in it pretty quick. We could go to the next slide. So what's the Empower project? The Empower Workplace Charging Project is funded by the US Department of Energy. It takes place nationwide. I'm based in Oregon, and we are, as Anne said earlier, we are sort of like the prime for the project, but we have over 30 clean cities and communities coalitions across the country that are participating in this project, which is pretty amazing. It's a fantastic collaboration. And that means we're able to offer folks that localized knowledge from their local coalition, which is fantastic. And we're also equity focused. We align with the White House Justice 40 initiative, which means that at least 40% of the benefits of this project are going to disadvantaged communities, or as we call them, energy and environmental justice communities. And our goal for this project is really to help workplaces realize those benefits that I was talking about earlier to workplace charging at their workplace, as well, and doing that by tackling the barriers that are either logistical barriers and also the financial barriers to workplace charging that we know exist. Great. And I have some numbers for you, and this is at the national level. Get a little bit of a snapshot into how we're doing as a project. We have engaged over 3,300 workplaces to date, which is pretty great. We have 428 plus workplaces that have pledged to advance access to EV for their employees. You can take that first step just by signing our pledge. And then over 447 or almost 450 EVSE ports that have been installed in workplaces nationwide as a result of this project. And about 60% of our workplaces actually fit our energy and environmental justice metrics. So our goal was 40%, but we have actually been exceeding that, which is really exciting, part of the Justice 40 initiative. Okay, and then I'm gonna hand it back to Louisiana Clean Fuels here.
All right, so why join Empower? Why not go in alone? Well, it's because you get access to us, the workplace charging coaches. You can utilize our expertise, our experience, both inside and outside the building. We can help you with surveys of your employees to see if there's interest in it, how much they would value having charging. We can help you deal with not only the cost of the installation and the equipment. We can pair you with incentives, both locally, nationally, incentives, and sometimes even through the local utility. But we can also help you do cost recovery within your own employment. So whether that be a fixed rate that you charge your employees, or if you offer it as a service like a cup of coffee, a lot of times the fees are about the same as the services you're already providing. So you'll gain access to our guides, our calculators, our pocket toolkits. Then there's also the recognition. So you'll get featured on our websites. We can help you with our social media campaigns and add value to your place to work at. People like to work where they feel welcome, and having chargers at work is definitely something that will help. We believe with employee retainment as well. So. And you have us to back you and promote all the wonderful things that you're doing for EV ownership.
Awesome, thank you. So this is very short presentation that we have for you today, but all of us are here to help you and to answer your questions about our workplace charging program. I'm actually going to go back to that last slide because it was quite helpful. Hold on, there we go. And wanted to know if anyone had any questions about this and how you could get started working with us. You can put it in the chat or you can just raise your hand. Right. So Grace, Tyler, do you all have any other tips or things that you would like to share with our group today?
I think I might add just that, one of the things that the Empower team has put together that I think is really valuable for workplaces is template surveys for surveying your employees to gauge interest in potential workplace charging. So you don't have to go into it without any information or any kind of data to support that it would be useful for your employees. And we can do a lot kind of leading into it to help tailor that survey to your workplace needs or your business model. And just to figure out, whether or not that's something that your employees would actually benefit from, or to get that sentiment analysis kind of upfront before you make any sort of decisions with that. I think that that's a really valuable way of looking at it and kind of putting data behind something that is otherwise can feel like a bit of a leap of faith that it's valuable to add. And having that upfront, I think, is really valuable for a lot of workplaces.
So Travis, what is the pledge and where can someone go to find the pledge to sign it? And why should they sign the pledge?
Exactly. Well, the pledge can be found on workplacecharging.com. The pledge is a letter of intent that says, hey, we're interested. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to install, but we'd like to engage the services of Louisiana Clean Fuel and their resources to help us better understand how workplace charging can be a benefit to our place of employment and to our employees. I think that covers it.
Yeah, and also on the pledge, there's a spot to say which coalition you want to work with, which is going to be the one that is local to you. So if you're dialing in from outside of the state, when you're signing the pledge, look and pick a coalition that is close to you that is in your state. It really helps the Empower team to send your information to us. And as soon as we get the information, we'll call you, and it doesn't cost a thing to you. This is all funded by a federal grant. So our assistance is free to you. No obligations for anything. We don't make, anything. There's no kickbacks from the installers or anything. We're just here to help you work through the process, make sure it works for you, and guide you along the path. Is there anything else you all would like to add, Grace, in closing?
Yeah, I'll add just, even if you're not sure about installing workplace charging, if you're interested in it, I would say go ahead and sign the pledge and connect with Louisiana Clean Fuels, because personally, I think that connection will serve you well in general. Like, there are some great folks and they are great at connecting you with the resources that you need for all kinds of clean fuels things. But also, that's kind of the first hurdle that we have here, is that you might be kind of interested in workplace charging, but you really don't know where to start. This is really an opportunity to figure out where to start. and figure out what those first steps might be, even where you are in the path to installing workplace charging. You might figure out it's actually easier than you thought it would be. Or you might figure out that you need to do a lot of work up front in order to make that happen. But you'll never know unless you actually sit down with somebody and have that conversation.
So what kind of person is this project for? Is this for employees, employers, utilities? And what kind of resources can they find on the workplacecharging.com website?
Yeah, great question. So we crafted Empower to be a resource for employers, to be a resource for businesses. We have all types of workplaces actually that participate in Empower, schools, governments, churches, all kinds of employers to sit down and figure out how to get workplace charging at their workplace. If you are an employee, we also welcome you to interact with Empower, to interact with your employer and talk to them about it, and have them sit down with us and encourage them to participate in Empower. That's fantastic as well. Oh, and you've just pulled up our website, which is fantastic. And if you click on that resources, the word resources up there, that'll bring you to our resource hub, which has a ton of great resources. If I had to tell you where to start, I would say start at the Pocket Guide, because that has a really great overview for workplaces who really aren't sure where to start in terms of workplace charging, and really helps you walk through the steps of workplace charging and all the things you need to know in order to move forward. That's actually a great resource to go over together with your workplace charging coach at Louisiana Clean Fuels, and just figure out what you need to do for each of those steps as you're looking at installing workplace charging. But there's tons of other resources on here too. We have a project checklist that has some cost estimates in it. We also have a power calculator tool. If you're like, how much energy is this going to cost me to have workplace charging? That survey that we were talking about earlier, and even this uses and applications. And there's also a report down below that's uses and applications, has some examples of workplaces that have EV charging and how they've implemented it in their workplace, if you're curious. So there's some great stuff in here, and I encourage you, if you're interested, to just explore these resources and figure out what they have in store for you, and learn a little bit more about workplace charging and EV charging.
And we can also work with the employees who want to convince their employers that this is a good thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, if you have fellow employees that they have electric vehicles, or they'd be interested in getting electric vehicles, you can bring these tools and this project to your employer and say, look, you have someone that can help you. They're not going to charge you. Even if you never do it, they're just going to help you identify it. And if you take a look at some of these tools and it looks a little overwhelming, that's okay. That's what we're there for. If you need a workshop to convince your employer, like you want us to come in and talk to your employer, we will come in. If your employer likes us and wants to see if the employees are excited about it, we can have EV showcases at your place of business. We can bring in local dealers that own electric vehicles. We can bring installers. We can bring all those to you, so that if your company is large and you have a lot of people, you all can learn about it, get excited about it, and build that kind of support behind it for the program. So just pretty much anything you can think of, we're here to help. And there's resources here, again, for the point of view of an EV owner who wants to go to their business. For if you're a building owner or operator, these are the resources that are designed for you. And if a utility is interested in doing this with their customers, we have some resources designed just for utilities. So I think this program is really well designed. And so let's see what happens when I click get started. This is the pledge. It's so easy. You're just asking, it's your name, your job, your title, your phone number, your address of where the business is. Here it goes. This is where you select Louisiana Clean Fuels. And that way we're going to get the email and you send it in. There's no obligation, but it gets you started and gets you in the system. So we can call you and start working with you.
Yeah, and I'll also add, For utilities too, if you want to work with Empower as a utility and become an Empower partner, that's also something that we offer. And I would say contact me or Anne if you're interested in that. And something great that we do at Empower is if we're working with you as a business, as a utility, as a partner, we can actually help you by becoming that resource basically for your customers. And that's a really exciting option as well. If you're a utility, you might not have charging yourself, but you are in charge of the electricity for a lot of customers that have charging, and you want to promote this program to those customers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So that's pretty much it. That is the program in a nutshell, and we're really excited that we had you here today. We have also recorded this, so we will be posting this on the Louisiana Clean Fuels YouTube page, so that, you know, for those who missed it today, they'll be able to watch it at their leisure, or if you want to show it to someone else in your office, you will be able to point them to our Louisiana Clean Fuels YouTube page and show this to your employer, to your coworkers, or to anyone else you think needs to see it. If there's no more questions, we will conclude today's webinar, and we look forward to helping you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for inviting me, Anne.
No problem.
Bye.